So, the name of the game on this day. Oh, hello, by the way. Welcome on this little hike. The name of the game was to follow the Great Trench dug in the western outer defenses of our 7th century lost castle. Lost for, over 1,300 years, but lost no more because we have found it. This is one reason why the book about the castle hasn't been published yet, because we're still discovering more, and there's especially one piece of the puzzle I want to find. But I'll finish the book this year. The first draft is done. I finished that last year. We want to follow that great trench back as far as we can. And then I want to come another day and metal detect it back as far as I can. We, on this day, being friends Yuki, Kana, your ace camera girl, and my chief lieutenant, and me. And this is a known Hibagon area. We are already finding things that raise our eyebrows and the hair on the backs of our necks. I won't comment on everything tediously. I'm sure you all have your own copy of the field guide by now by Mr. Noel. Required reading. We meet again this very large timber, peeled all the way up and balanced on its pencil point end between these two living trees. I keep wondering when this is going to fall, and always hoping it's not on me. This tree is still here, woven in between these two trees. This is just beside, I've just turned around. This is just beside the pencil point timber. That log is nicely stashed away there. And I'm really appreciating the cleverness of this design. It begins as a road, and slowly the earth rises up on either side of you, and slowly it narrows in on you, and now you realize it's not a road, it's a trench, or what they call a vertical moat. A tatebori dug up the mountainside, impeding lateral movement, and here channeling the enemy into a kill zone, like cattle being driven into an abattoir. And if I am lord of this castle, my spearmen and halberdmen, my polearm men will now rush forward and choppity chop, chop you to bits. Well, we climb out of the trench, easy enough for us because we're not weighed down with heavy armor. For the enemy to climb out, they would have to leave, they'd have to drop their weapons and shields, and that would not be good for them. And here is our standing X with its mirrored horizontal X on the floor, and the Y stick of this XXY arrangement is gone. The head of this section of trench, and continuing above to the next section. This tree we saw before, peeled, snapped at base, no root system present, so it was moved here from somewhere, imported. That would take probably only one Hebagon, or 20 or more human beings working together, cooperating to move it for no reason at all. You decide which scenario makes more sense to you. This large piece of bark flung up here, hanging here perhaps from part of the debarking process. The trench continues way back still, but we're going to take the way up alongside it on the right side, on the edge of the trench. We find a bit of broken pottery. Now, it didn't break here. There was only this one piece, so somebody carried a piece of broken pottery in here where nobody comes. Even people who live around here in the neighborhood don't know about this canyon. No hikers come here. And I'm reminded now of the broken bit of pottery set into the hillside not far from here that we found earlier in the spring, and the ceramic chawanmushi pot lid set into the hillside up on Mount Heba off trail that we found last autumn. And all of these pieces of pottery, all three, are blue, if that means anything to you. This is a built-up sort of tower overlooking the trench, a very fine defensive point from which to shoot down. Kana is wearing her mask because of hay fever. Without it, she would suffocate because of all the pollen in the air and the yellow sands blowing in from the Gobi Desert. This structure marks the farthest we've come before. That was last year with those 3 junior high school girls, Kome and her 2 friends. A strange stone. I've shown it to several people here, photos. Some think it could be a gravestone, a very ancient gravestone. I'm going to come back with my metal detector. Now see the aging and coloring around the edges, and the relatively clean center. There might have been a carving or something that's fallen off. I have to go back and see, but come to think of it, the roof and the sides are also very clean. A bit of a puzzle. Well, now the stone also marks this stone staircase dug into the earth, sort of a combination small trench and staircase that goes up perpendicular from the Great Trench. So we say goodbye to the Great Trench. We love you, Great Trench, but we've changed our plan. We're going to see where this new staircase goes. Well, it goes up. That's fairly obvious. And then it becomes a nice bit of trail. Nice bit of trail. Goes past these shattered and busted up and piled up trees with no saw cuts or other tool marks. Past these busted trees, and up to this young, supple tree pulled down to the ground, its crown down to the ground, and a heavy, busted, and peeled timber placed on it to keep it bowed down and not go boing and stand back up. This is structure number 1, as you know, in the field guide, and I'll read that to you. Quoting from the field guide now. Number 1, tree arch. To determine that this is not the result of normal snow or ice buildup, check to see if the end of the tree is pinned down by a concentration of debris, a rock, or by another imported tree, one that did not grow here. All right, I think this qualifies. Now, we weren't counting or keeping track, but later we remembered 10 structures from this morning hike, or 20% of the field guide. And the trail ended here, so we had to find our own way up the rest of the way, make our own way. That's not a big problem. Up at the top, someone has started to peel this tree with tremendous superhuman strength and directionality, peeling clockwise. But he or she changed his or her mind before he or she finished, or maybe was interrupted. We go back down the other side of this ridge to our castle latrines, our ancient castle latrines, and their recent contents have been rearranged. Imagine that. Someone has knocked down a few trees, gathered up some broken limbs, and rearranged the latrine rock and stick arrangements. I need to come back and make my own arrangement, and I think leave a passport-size photo of myself in there with a nice gift, I think an amethyst. We take this trench system down to the road out, and the road out is blocked by a smashed and partly peeled tree that wasn't there before. So, an excellent morning with new castle discoveries, fresh Hebegon activity, and a better photo of this small triangle carved into this rock face by our prehistoric, perhaps antediluvian, megalithic friends. A nice blend of old and new, and human and probably, strictly speaking, non-human, but I think science calls them extinct hominins. Recently here on this mountain. What will we find on Mount Heba next weekend?